So in this use case, we're kind of exploring if you want to be super personalized and if you want to leverage all the tools possible to be so super personalized that we've just been explaining, then it would look a little bit like this. Okay, so I start on Google and I'm looking the biggest CIO in healthcare in the States, for example. I find this article and I think, great, cool, CIOs, CTOs. I start going down. Then I find this guy, no, I don't want this guy. I want Anil, for example, from Anthem. I go to LinkedIn and I find him, if I type right, yes, great. I find him, I check out his profile, I look where his work information is. 16 years at Elephants, great. I reach out to him and I add a note. Or maybe not. That's actually how we did it before. Just finding a person and reach out. We actually want to do some research first, because before we do this. That will look a little bit like this. I go back to the same article, and I want to get all the information from the article. I can actually use ChatGPT for that. So give me all the companies that are from this article, for example. And it will give me a list. This is still pretty doable, right? Probably everybody knew about this. Okay, great. It's giving me a list. This list I will probably put in Excel. Great, put it in Excel to kind of create an account list first, because I first want to look about things on the company before the person. Create an Excel, and from here I'm going to the next one. I'm going to Sales Navigator, which is kind of the sales tool of LinkedIn. All the data from LinkedIn is in the sales tool of LinkedIn. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to upload the accounts. Great. See if it works. Update the title. Great. They're now in my LinkedIn, so I can get all the data from LinkedIn about the companies. Check if they're all right. They're all right. Great. Cool. From here, I'm going to filter on buyer intent, so I can actually see which companies have already engaged with us before. So which companies we score high with. Great. Health service executive looked already at our profile. They engaged with our companies. So I'm going to only select the companies that are moderate or high. I don't want the companies that we didn't have any interaction with, just to already qualify a little bit. From there, I'm going to look for people. So I'm going to do that lead list with all the moderate and high buyer intent. And then I'm going to add the job titles. The CIOs, the CTOs, that was it. I'm going to do some basic filtering. I want to get it down a little bit more. You don't see it very well, but I'm currently on 250 results. I want to get it a bit more down, otherwise I'm dequalifying a bit more. I want to get rid of the entry levels, people who have their own startups, the seniors. I just want the CXOs and the VPs, for example. Great, now I have a list of people that I can work with. I'm going to tidy this up a little bit. I could have cut this out, I realize now, but this needs to be tidied up a little bit. Could have sped up. From here, I'm preparing for the next tool. The next tool I can tell you a little bit about. It's Clay. The tool is called Clay, and it sounds very complex, but it's actually, it enables us to use OpenAI, to use ChatGPT for multiple different rows. So for multiple people at the same time. So I'm importing that here into our new Clay. And from here, what I can do is I can actually ask a lot of questions. I can, for example, enrich this list with, what am I going to find out here? Probably going to look for, first I'm combining the first and last name just to get some good results. First I'm probably going to look for if they're hiring people related to healthcare products, for example, or if they're hiring or if they have certain tech stacks. So I'm going to find the domains, because I need them too, because I need to know what companies they work at. Great, I have now all the websites, I can always visit that later. From here, I'm going to look for hiring information. So I just looked which jobs are they hiring for that have integration or digital transformation in their job title, for example. Because if one of the companies have integration or digital transformation in their job titles, they're probably needing some extra service there. So instead of hiring someone, I might sell a product that actually they will need. For now, this is actually really cool. So this is called the ClayGen. So this is like an OpenAI ChatGPT integration into this tool. So I can now do research at scale for all these companies at the same time. So what I'm now doing is I'm asking if there's any digital transformation projects in the last year that are publicly available, so on internet, on LinkedIn, or wherever. And it's going to do the searches for me. And I asked, say either no or yes. And when it says yes, they give me some information. Ah, okay, great. New AI surgery for Johnson & Johnson, another yes. What do we have here? Ah, great, digital transformation agreement with IBM. If IBM is already there, it might not be the perfect one for me. And ask the next question, because I want to know one step further. I actually want to know, okay, if there is already a digital transformation project going on, I want to know if the CIO or the CTO has something to do with it, because then I can talk about it, instead of finding it out in the meeting, for example. So if I find this out here already, I can do that search. It's giving me quite some good yeses. That's always nice to see. From here, I find, for example, about Anil. That's actually the one that I wanted to reach out to. Now I have more information. Now I can actually mention that already, or just know about it before I get into a conversation. Since the conversations are usually only half an hour or even shorter with an executive like that, that's all useful information to know. Great, this is a podcast, so I can actually listen to this podcast for an hour to this person already without talking to him, before talking to him already. That gives me great insights. But now comes the hard question, because now I need to know who I'm going to reach out first. So I'm actually looking at the different results now. Which result can I actually use the best in my outreach? And then I can always go to the less important results, for example. Okay, just checking out a little bit more. I'm getting to the right persons here. This is very interesting. Melissa Bell works at Danaher, and Danaher, she was a CIO there. And I also find the CTO from Danaher, so I can see if they say the same things. Maybe that's indicating some importance. So from here, I'm actually going to look at the personality profiles of Melissa, because I want to know what kind of person it is. So I have this tool for this, human linker. She's a very red person, very direct. Gets a bit uncomfortable when a conversation takes too long. Okay, that's all good information to know. Okay, what about James? It's a red person as well. Okay, so they both like direct conversations. Gets another anxious when the conversation gets too long. Doesn't like a slow pace of work. Okay, so I probably don't need to provide too much context when I'm in a conversation there. I just want to be direct. Also, I found his podcast on YouTube. So I want to know, instead of watching the whole YouTube link, I want to know what he said there. So I can actually mention that as well in my conversation, or in my outreach, for example. So what's they saying here? You need paid version of ChatGPT, just for information. Okay, so these are the top 5 things he mentioned. If I'm actually going to say that, I will need to decide for my own. I can't just copy-paste this, but I will need to kind of decide this for my own. Okay, great. Now we get to the connection message. We ask to kind of combine that with our conversation. It can only be 275 characters, so we want a result like that. I don't need to make it too high commitment. I need to make it very low commitment. I can't just be too direct right away. If they want a conversation, for example, I need to introduce that. So here's giving me an example, but I might want to end up with a question, so to get kind of his engagement a little bit more. So if I get a question, then he might want to respond right away. I asked for 3 alternatives just to pick. I picked the middle one. The middle one looks nice. And I wrote it a little bit too long, but I made this whole recording already, so I was not going to do this again. So that's in 9 minutes, kind of sped up how you could do it. Of